What's up, everybody, and welcome to Inside the Game, your source for everything cool in video games. Don't forget, if you want to be a part of our show, it's easy. All you have to do is go to insidethegame.ca or hit us up in Discord, where there you can submit your clip and end off our show. We have an excellent episode this week. What's coming up? Here it is. It's the rundown.
The idea is try to chain as many together as possible so you can get those million and a half, 2 million, scores. Because let me tell you, you can get up there. You can really chain together a ton of different combos here. And
my overall experience with the game is pretty cool. It is definitely a unique experience to be able to teleport from one dimension into another.
It's a cool ability to have. I think it's nice to have another operator that's going to heal your team and heal possibly everybody.
Alright, Drew, so like I said, we are Commander Shepard. And in this review, we're going to be just reviewing Mass Effect 1.
Looks like a great show, so let's get started. Here's Steve and Corey as they get wrecked.
So Corey, let's put the pedal to the metal and let's hit some ramps.
Let's do it. Steve, this week we're checking out Rekt on Xbox. This is kind of an arena demolition derby stunt car driving game. This is kind of an interesting little game. It's not a big game by any stretch. It's just under $10. It's about $8 Canadian. So I mean, I'm not expecting huge things here, man. With we're getting a bit of an arcadey, blocky graphic style. There's nothing, fantastically special about how good this one looks, but I mean, it serves its purpose. What did you think when you jumped into Rekt?
Do you know what? For the first probably 3 to 4 hours, I was really enjoying it. I was following, like, when you get the points, it will tell you, like, do 2 forward rolls when you hit the ramps, or 2 side spins, or backflips. Then, once I started getting a bit more into it, for me, unfortunately, it became a bit repetitive. It was, you just have one vehicle, you have your map with ramps, and there's platforms on there, and all you have to do is just hit those ramps at the fastest speed possible and do as many backflips, spins, side turns, or whatever moves you can do, and then try and land it perfectly to get the full marks. And to be honest with you, that's the basis of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really all we're getting here, right? I mean, every level kind of tasks you with 3 objectives, and some of them are easy, some of them are a little more difficult depending on how far you get through this game, depending on what scores they kind of ask you to achieve. Sometimes it's 1 million, sometimes 1.5 million. When I first started, I was like, how the heck am I going to get 1 million points? But the idea here is that you chain all your kind of stunts together. So when you land, after landing a trick, you have a short period of time before you can kind of chain together the next trick, and you see that little timer pop up, and if it runs out, that score that you currently have just gets banked onto your total score. But the idea is try to chain as many together as possible so you can get those 1 million, 1.5 million, 2 million, scores. Because let me tell you, you can get up there. You can really chain together a ton of different combos here. And they do a pretty good job early on of kind of giving you a quick little tutorial on how the controls work. I mean, the game is very kind of physics based. We can flip the car forward and backwards with the analog stick, up and down, left and right spins with the left and right, and then the barrel rolls with the triggers, the bumpers. And it's, once you start kind of comboing some of those together, it does become pretty difficult to land that car depending on where you are on some of these maps. There's only 5 maps here, which I was kind of, I was a little upset about. I thought maybe we get a few more, especially after we kind of completed the first 5, but you are locked into the 5. They are pretty unique. They look pretty cool. I like how colorful they are and how they switch colors when you're kind of in there doing your tricks and stuff like that. And there is a time limit, and that's kind of what you're working against the whole time. There's small clocks you can also collect that will extend the time. So I mean, there are things you can do to kind of keep your play going, but honestly, I found sometimes I'm going just to unlock the 3 objectives, and then I'll just let the timer run out so I can, collect the money to get, the next level open or the next car. And the cars is actually probably the one bright spot here that I really liked. I thought the cars were kind of goofy looking. They were all, had their own style. There's 43 of them to unlock, which is pretty surprising. It's a lot of cars for a game that's only, sub $10. And there are some small customization options when it comes to changing up your cars. You put new tires, different spoilers, and there's you can put different logos on the bottom of your car because you're going to be flipping this car like crazy the whole time, so you see it quite often. So it was kind of neat to be able to customize. But honestly, Steve, overall, this one just kind of lacked the depth, right? I mean, it's just there was things missing here as far as we do have a multiplayer mode that's local multiplayer, and I think you could jump in with some friends and that would be fun. But again, it's limited. You only have so much time in this game before it just really starts to feel repetitive.
Yeah, and it just feels like a long grind as well, just to unlock the cars and then upgrade them. And to be honest with you, like we talked on earlier, it lacks AI other vehicles where you just by yourself. Just to either discourage you or something like a trainer car, like they do in like speedways. Sort of. Yep. Just sort of keep
like a ghost car.
Like a ghost car, just sort of like keep the competitive alive kind of thing. Because after, like I said, after 3-4 hours, I've done my spins. I was going for the 100,000 points, 200,000. I noticed as well you get more points from the smaller ramps because there is platforms that you can actually like jump off, but you don't get as many bonus points for doing more flips off of them than if it's the smaller ramps and the jumps, which was kind of a little bit disappointing because you thought you're a little bit higher up.
Yeah.
And then you could do more spins, back flips, because obviously you got a boost as well. Mm-hmm. That sort of like give you that extra speed you need for your drifting and things. But unfortunately, that's it. I know there's no more else in the game that you could do in it. Really, unfortunately.
It's true. I mean, your $8, I guess, the value is there. You know what I mean? If you really do enjoy the style of game, you like this repetitive kind of objectives where you just keep going, you're trying to beat those high scores, you're trying to get, the race done in a certain amount of time. So, I mean, there is a draw here for certain people, and it does have that casual arcade element where you can just jump in, jump out. And I think that's what it has going for it. But again, like we've said a few times already, it does lack, content and depth. So, Steve, if we've got a score Rekt, what are you going to give this one?
Well, I like the idea of the game. Unfortunately, there just wasn't enough content for me. So I'm going to give this a 5.
Yeah, you know what? This one does kind of fall right in the middle of the road, right? I mean, it's a solid game for what it's giving you, what everybody's looking for when it comes to a little racer like this. But honestly, again, you're only going to be in it for a few hours before you start to get bored. Maybe jump in with some friends for a little bit, but again, a few hours in, you're probably going to get bored. I can't give this one any more than a 4.5. Easy to jump into gameplay and simple level design will have you barrel rolling like a champ, but the lack of depth will be what makes it hard to stick around.
I'm checking out a headset this week. I'm looking at SteelSeries Arctis Pro and Game Deck. Are you ready? On this review, we're going to check out a few things. The durability of the headset, obviously the sound quality, mic quality, and is the Game Deck really necessary? So let's dive in. Straight out of the box, we're going to get the headset, the mobile adapter, optical cable, the headset main cable itself, and the USB cable. We'll also get the Game Deck itself. And lastly, a windsock for your microphone, if you want to use that. Now, the Game Deck is really the star of the show. This is where everything comes together for the world of the SteelSeries Arctis Pro plus the Game Deck itself, and holding down the wheel will give you a bunch of various options from the audio settings, input, output, the display settings, illumination, allowing you to change all your colors like we always do, and learn about SteelSeries themselves. Going into input allows you to choose whether or not you want to choose the PC high res setting, which brings the audio level to a whole other experience, PS4 and PS5. The game deck is sleek, super simple to use, and everything functions with the big button. Hold that down, all your functions will be available for you. From there, we take a look at the back. We have the optical slot, USB, line out, mobile, and of course the headphones themselves. All right, let's get into the headset here. We have an aluminum metal frame up top, ties that whole thing together, an adjustable ski strap, which is super nice, quick and easy to adjust. The retractable emplacements of the headphone speakers themselves, I thought it was awesome. The ability to adjust the sides, so it's super comfortable when to form fit on your head. The fabric they chose to use, SteelSeries went with, is an air weave fabric, which makes it super comfortable as well. It's not that rubber-like texture, so you're not going to have to worry about sweating if you use it for hours like I do. It has a retractable microphone, which is nice to have. Sometimes we use it, sometimes we don't, so we're able to tuck it out of the way. It did come with an air sock as well if you want to have that, just for that extra clarity when talking with your friends. If we flip it over, they have a nice and easy mute button here, just a click and you're locked and loaded, as well as the volume. Super comfortable, super impressed with the durability and the placement of everything. So quick and easy and functional. The Arctix Pro and game deck, I asked you right off the hop, is the game deck that important? Well, absolutely is. There's a couple functions we can use with this. PC being the main function, the high res audio is there for you as well. And then you have the ability to connect it to your PS4 and PS5. And that's where the game deck comes in and it really shines when connecting to these devices. You can connect it technically to the Xbox by using the mobile adapter cable. You can do that. It plugs directly right into your Xbox controller, and from there you're set. But when we get over to the world of PlayStation 4, that connects with the optical cable into the back of the PS4 and the game deck. And when it comes to the PS5, they actually simplified that now. And there is no longer an optical cable for you to connect on next-gen consoles, being Xbox Series X or the PS5. They've gone away with those completely. And now, with the game deck, all you do is connect the USB. From there, let's get into the PS5 setup. It's super simple. Over to the cog wheel, it gets you into your settings. From there, we're going to scroll down to sound. My device for the microphone is already connected, and if I head over to the audio output, I'm going to switch it from HDMI and use the USB headset, which is now my SteelSeries game deck. It is that simple, super simple, up and running, and the quality of your audio is so enhanced, you'll instantly tell the difference. My final thoughts on the Arctix Pro Plus game deck is one of the best headsets out there in the world of gaming, whether you're on PC or console, mostly being on the PlayStation side, because like I said earlier, it does not connect to your Xbox, only your Xbox controller through the mobile adapter. However, when you're into the world of gaming and you're on PlayStation, you're in some great hands here with the SteelSeries. This headset is phenomenal. It's one of the best headsets I've ever experienced. With a full dynamic range of audio and settings, you're at one of the top tier within the industry. Now, it does come in at a hefty price tag of $324.99. That is Canadian, so it definitely is on the higher end when it comes to headsets themselves, but you also can't go wrong. So my overall impressions were fantastic and puts me there with a 9.5. SteelSeries have easily crushed this out of the park with great design, crystal clear audio, and a mic that withstands your surroundings, never picking up background noise. However, at a higher price tag, it is expensive, but it's sound quality to the next level. Guys, one of our favorite games is getting some pretty significant changes. We're talking about Rainbow Six Siege, the second season in Year 6, North Star. Let's get into it because there's a bunch of changes happening. So I got a little press release here I want to read off to you before we even get started. So everybody's on the same page. We know where we're coming from, right? In North Star, players will discover a brand new defender, Thunderbird. She can deploy a Kona healing station, which heals any player, ally, or enemy. So you got two sides, right? You can be the good guys or the bad guys, attackers, defenders. Anybody can get healed in this one. We can talk about her ability. I think is the biggest thing. Her guns are the Spear 308 or the Spaz 15 as her primary. Secondary, you get the Bearing 9 or the Q929 as your secondary weapon. Overall thoughts on the operator alone, guys?
Go ahead,
Well,
Nate.
I'll start off, I guess. I actually really like that primary weapon. It's my favorite primary weapon in the game. Fink is the only one that's had that, so
Yeah,
it's good.
it's cool
I like
seeing that gun brought back. Yeah, it's cool. But the ability, man, this sounds cool. You know, we were well overdue for another healer class.
Yes.
And I think it's not really overpowered in any situation because the opposing team can use that ability still. So I don't know. Guys. What do you guys think?
Well,
what do you think, Corey?
man, it's one of those things, right? Like you said, we've kind of been looking for another healer. I mean, Doc is slow. Let's get real.
Yeah.
Doc is slow. He can heal
Sure.
both enemies and allies. He can shoot the enemies with his gun and heal them. It's not something we tend to do more often than not, like unless you're trolling.
Yeah.
But being able to know that the enemy can come in and heal themselves after some sort of exchange is going to really lay into how strategic you have to be with this operator, right? And this ability. I don't know how much information we got on it. Is it bulletproof? Do you have to melee destroy it? Can you shoot to destroy it?
I think you can shoot it.
Yeah, so that lightens the load a little bit more, right? So you have to be more strategic as that operator to place it in the room in certain spots, you know? Maybe you plan with your team that this area that's not even near the objective rooms will have one of these things so you can go and heal up, you know, through, you know, different firefights and gunfights and things like that. So, I don't know, man. It's a cool ability to have. I think it's nice to have another operator that's going to heal your team and heal possibly everybody. Could make these matches go on for a little bit longer, or at least have more people in the end game of these matches, the last seconds counting down.
Sure.
It'd be kind of interesting to see going forward what we're going to get with this.
So she's a low armor with a high speed. So I'm low armor thinking 1 armor, right? High speed being 3. So we'll see how that plays. But I'm thinking already, right? If you get in the tower over in Oregon, and if you guard the one tower, she could drop one of her Kona healing stations right there, and you can guard the tower. You get tagged, okay, you move over, right? Yeah. So it's got a 2-meter radius on this thing, so you have plenty of room to work with. So and if you're downed, you can get healed with that as well, so you're still not out.
Yeah,
so
that's pretty cool.
It does have some unique plays coming into effect, I think, with her new stature. We definitely, like you said, Nate, it's been a long time that we haven't had a healer, so it's nice to see somebody else step into that role because it's been so long. And I kind of thought maybe we'll be seeing something here shortly, and it was nice to see. Well, they're also doing a rework on the favela map. To me, it's not in like our usual ranked, so I'm really not going to play it, to be honest.
No.
But they are reworking it. They're going to make it a lot more readability, they said, is what their words are, so that way you can distinguish what rooms are what rooms. That's the biggest thing, because right now you go in there and everything's all the same.
That game's kind of, or not that game, but that map's kind of a hot mess. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. When we used to play quick play, I was like, oh, it's favela.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay.
Tough
And
stuff.
all it is blown open walls everywhere, and it's just a chaotic mess because everything's like green.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
I am happy to see that, but like you said, Drew, we're mostly ranked play now, so.
Yeah, at
Don't
this
see it
point.
very often.
Yeah, I shouldn't say never. I'm there once in a while just because I only have a few minutes, so I don't want to get into a full ranked match because that's the last thing I want to
They're
do
an
is
hour.
you bail on those, right? But now let's get into what's happening over in the world of test servers, because that's where a lot of this stuff is going to play out first, get implemented, and then if everything goes well, then gets into the base game. But 2 new features will be tested. You ready for this? A revamped armor system and activities after death. So the revamped armor system, if you are a 1 armor, then you get 100 HP. If you're a 2 armor, you get 110. And if you are a 3 armor, you get 125. Now, you also toss in the mix of Rook, you drop a vest, now you're at 145 if you're a 3 armor. Thoughts on that portion, and then we'll get into activities after death that I'm not too happy about.
Well, Corey, I'm not exactly familiar with Rook's ability. Was it just that it stopped a bullet hitting your chest before? Is that kind of...
Yeah, essentially it was just an armor plate that basically gave you 1 or 2, I think it was 1 or 2 free shots before it broke into your actual HP.
So I think this is not huge. This isn't a huge change like the other one that we'll touch up on right after this.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. It's a little more clarity in the different roles with a 1-speed, a 2-speed, and now a 3-speed.
Yeah, you've
makes
got
sense.
these guys, right? You've got these three armor operators. They're supposed to feel like tanks because they certainly move like tanks in the game, right? They're sluggish
Yeah.
compared to a 1-speed operator or even a 2-speed.
Sure.
So having a little extra ammo so you can maybe take 1 or 2 more shots before you deke into that room, I think is fair because honestly, if you get caught, and you're a 3 armor operator, you're gonna have a tough time getting out of certain situations. So being able to take a few more shots, I think, is gonna balance this out a little bit better, make these firefights maybe a little more fair. And honestly, like we talked about this earlier off cameras, a headshot's still a headshot.
Well,
so.
that's just it. Yeah, that's where I was heading next. Corey, you took it from me. Absolutely.
Sorry,
As long
buddy.
as- no, it's fine. As long as the headshot is still a headshot, then okay, right? Because that's where you should be going for in the first place. But you know how often we tag the body first, all the time. But now with those 3-speed operators and being one of my favorite being Cade, I have a little bit more longevity in my life cycle, I would think, when it comes into that. But let's get into the next thing. Is the activities after death. I'm not sure how I feel about this one because attackers can now, when down, still activate and control their drones. Or if you're on the defending side, right, if you're an Echo or a Mozzie or Maestro, the Evil Eye is still in play. So now you're looking to take out everything possible. Mira too, so now they also implemented glass clashing. Well, I'll call it clashing. It's like shattered glass.
Yeah.
Basically, when you walk up to Mira's window, and if you're an attacker, you smash that thing. It doesn't bust, but it puts like a shattered effect across it and blinds the defender's side. So no longer can you see through it. Which,
Okay.
that one I don't really think I'm too fond of either. We'll see how it plays out. I think it's an interesting mechanic to play with, but I'm not 100% sure that I like that ability. That window's there for a purpose.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can smash it once, it puts up that, like now, mind you, the attacker does have to get to that portion of your
that's
thing,
kind
right?
of the draw to that, right? Like,
Yeah.
You're pretty risky going up close to that mirror with an exposed wall beside you because you're just gunning them down, right? So
Often.
I think that's actually a pretty good turn, man. But the other
drones?
things, though, that's
Dude, if you're
We gotta
dead,
nail
you're
Yeah,
down
dead.
see,
these
it
drones,
is.
boys.
the biggest thing that I think is a plus out of all this is that a lot of the operators with all these gadgets are now more useful. Like,
Okay.
there's a lot more use to the gadgets instead of everything just being, a gunplay. It's like, okay, well, my Evil Eye, I could still use that. Like, that's huge. You know what I mean?
I kind of feel it's
So-
got that Apex effect or where you're dead, but yet you're still not out of the game.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what's coming into play here, and I'm not sure that that's how this game is meant to be played. To me, if you're dead,
Well-
you're dead. You can't. If I'm dead, man, I can't operate anything. There's a reason for it because
But we were already operating the cameras.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Ah,
We
that's
already
true,
were
too.
doing that, were we not?
Well-
So I was with you until I kind of thought of that.
But you're
while
not
we were
driving
doing
it
this.
around after the fact. And so
No.
that brings into some confusion into play here, right?
Sure.
Because you hear, there's going to be drones driving around. Now, who's got what drone? Who's controlling what? So what they've said is now we get a drone counter on screen, or what they're testing is a drone counter on screen. So at least you know how many drones are being used by active players that haven't been eliminated from the match yet. And then the drones that are being used by players beyond the grave have a small antenna on them so you can visually, discern which one is which. But that's like, I don't know, man. I just don't understand. It's a big change for a game that's been very consistent, right?
Yeah.
So maybe, everybody hates change. So maybe we're just, we see this
Sure.
and we're putting up our walls, right? So we think
Yep.
about it. So, we'll see how the test server, test of all this works out and see what feedback they take from the players to see if they have to sort of make some sort of change to this mechanic, because there is something there. Like Nate said, there is a positive side to this, right? Those operators' gadgets actually get to get used, because we've all been in
Sure.
those matches where sometimes you get killed before you even get to use this, one
man.
of those things, right? So it's like, it's frustrating at times, but I think it'll be interesting to see how the balance plays, because this game's all about balance, and you know, when you introduce new things, there's always changes that need to be made to find that balance. But honestly, man, I see this thing becoming a staple, man. I see them, you know, they're testing it for a reason, and if this comes into the game, I think people are just gonna have to start getting used to it and taking out more, and you know, being on the drones and being on the gadgets and stuff like that, right?
Well, even how many times do you get in a match and Buddy maybe didn't get to his controller right away because he was grabbing a drink, and then his drone's just idly sitting at the spot. Well, now he has that opportunity to push forward, and I think this game, it's really like it's a defender-friendly game for the most part, right? Like if you're on defense and you're doing well, most of the maps are built in your favor. So I think this might sort of help balance, you know, the attacker's side a little bit.
Now let's also keep in mind that this goes to test servers first. Doesn't mean it's coming to the game, right?
It's not coming.
Maybe they get the feedback that nobody likes these changes, and they being Ubisoft, don't implement it into the game at all. This is the ideas that they're toying with and going to introduce to test servers. We'll see how well they play out, but they got a couple more changes. They're going to revamp the scoreboard. So they got Scoreboard 2.0. I don't have any details on that. Corey, do you got anything on that one?
No, actually, I'm just swinging through, trying to find that spot, because there's a bunch of operator changes as well. We've made some tweaks to all different kinds of operators as we kind of go forward here with cooldowns and stuff like that. A lot of weapon balancing.
Always.
The bullet hole one's a big one.
A ton of notes.
Yes.
But I'm not seeing anything on the scoreboard here, Drew.
All right, no worries. There is the new corpse icon. No longer will the bodies just kind of linger when you're dead. Like, we've been used to that for so long. Now they're actually going to vanish. That was like going back to old days when they needed to free up the space in the game so they can progress in the game.
James Bond.
That's right, so the body would disappear. So now the body's going to disappear and leave an icon behind, letting you know who died and where they died. But yet you can't no longer sit and kind of peek and hide behind the body and shoot from them, Corey. Or bullet holes.
Hey, if you can't beat them, join them.
That's right. Bullet holes, too, they've changed. We were talking with Adam before this as well. Adam mentioned it was only handguns. We'll have to look a little bit further into this as far as details go. But they're changing the fact that no longer can you take a bullet out of your handgun and shoot it and just have the bullet hole in a soft wall and be able to peek that. Now you have to actually take, like, cut out a hole or smash a hole. So they're revamping the system so it's not as cheeky as what we've seen in the past. Well, guys, that's quite the discussion on Rainbow Six. That's what I said, though. It's one of our favorite games, so there's always lots to talk about. Nate, final thoughts?
I'm actually looking forward to see how this all kind of plans out. I'm huge into the pro side, and especially with the bullet hole thing, that's going to really change the meta in the pro league side. So all in all, I'm excited but nervous. Corey, what about you?
You know, man, I feel the same way. I mean, we love this game, so whenever big changes like this happen, I know we're all really interested in hopping in. I'm excited for the new operator. I think her ability is really cool. I'm interested to see how other people use her moving forward. But again, we got lots of changes here. Some concrete, some not so much. Drew, what do you think's going to happen, man?
Oh, man, there's always changes, right? Some changes, like you say, are good. Some, maybe not so much. So, definitely a little nervous for some of these after-death activities. That has me a little nervous. Besides that, though, the rest of it I think I'm pretty excited for. I'm looking forward to the new op and some of the other changes. Definitely want to know what all of you think. Hit us up at insidethegame.ca. Are you excited for these changes? I'm grabbing my Oculus to become a Flowweaver.
Flowweaver? What are you talking about? Wait. What's happening?
been quite some time since I jumped into my Oculus Quest 2, and this time I'm jumping in to Flowweaver, an escape room experience where you sit the entire game. You don't stand whatsoever. The game is only about 3 hours long, but you've been trapped by the necromancer, and you're essentially trapped in what they call the real world. The real world is a castle-like tower that you are in, but you get these Flowweaver abilities that allow you to teleport from one dimension into another. Definitely a pretty cool concept.
I wonder if this could ever grow again.
So why are you here? Well, the necromancer out of nowhere suddenly decided to captivate you and hold you in this tower. From there, you're set out on the task to escape. Pretty simple, but you run into unique characters around the world in other dimensions and kind of give you more of a backstory of what happened to them and maybe why they aren't alive anymore. Certain situations like that are rather pretty cool, pretty interactive. You get the ability to kind of hone in on your senses and discover what's in that particular room that will allow you to interact with objects and help you escape. And then you use some of these objects in other dimensions. So if you're able to pull from one object, like a bone in the very beginning, for example, to then pull it into the shadow realm, well, that gives you the ability then to open up this chest. So it's cool to see how they intertwine both of the worlds, but you can only go from one realm back to the reality world and then into another realm. You're not going to go from one realm to the next. You have to teleport back to your main source, the castle, and then from there, head out on your next adventure. My overall experience with the game is pretty cool. It is definitely a unique experience to be able to teleport from one dimension into another, and from there solve the puzzles. I've never really seen anything used in that kind of mechanic. I thought that was a really nice highlight. The voice acting as the main character is actually really well done. The rest of them seem to be a little lackluster, not as polished as I would have liked to have seen when it comes to the voice of the main character. She's really well done, kind of brings this presence to her, and the fact that she has this sense of awareness of who she is but doesn't know why she's there, and then you kind of set out to discover what's going on and why is the necromancer holding you hostage. It's a very cool experience, definitely one I do recommend.
Locked chest with useful items inside. Do my captors want me to escape? What do they hope to gain?
My overall experience with Flowweaver was enjoyable, but definitely short-lived. Wrapping in only around 3 hours, it's more of an experience than a full-fledged game, so definitely be aware of that moving forward. Voice acting was really good when it comes to the main character, but kind of left me wanting more from the remaining cast, and the overall worlds themselves were pretty cool. Some of these dimensions you teleport into can be very awe-inspiring, I would say. So very unique worlds, very creative, like how the puzzles work. Some of them did leave me a little hung up there for a while, but I still had a great time. Overall, I'm scoring this one a 6.5.
Looks like a lightning rod or something. But it's surrounded by some kind of protective structure.
Flowweaver is a unique experience that will put you in your seat, literally, as you flow through dimensions to solve the puzzles of the world. However, only 3 hours of gameplay time will leave you looking for a little bit more.
You bring foul magic here to my realm. Magic that does not belong.
Alright, Drew, we're finally playing as Commander Shepard on the next generation of consoles.
Release the Varren!
Alright, Drew, so like I said, we are Commander Shepard, and in this review, we're going to be just reviewing Mass Effect 1. We're going to try and split this up into 3 parts because these are 3 very big games, man.
Absolutely.
But, okay, so 2007, I think, is when Mass Effect initially launched, maybe 2008. We're talking years ago.
Yeah.
And hopping into this remaster, unfortunately, it still feels some of that 2007 fatigue, does it not?
Absolutely. So when it initially launched, everybody was all over this game, and everybody was talking about it, right? It's the hottest thing going in story choices and
Rightfully so.
dialogue. Yeah, right? Like, the story is, bar none, one of the best ever told when it comes to the trilogy alone, never mind just the first game. But it's the game itself that held me back then that still continues to hold me back now. That's where I'm at, Nate. I'm still stuck back in those 2008, 2007 era of this game, and I can't, it's so difficult to get through the first one. What I would have liked to have seen is what everybody else has been doing lately, and doing a remake of the game. I don't want to remaster because it is so outdated and so old. Like the new Demon Souls coming over to PS5, dude, it would have been fantastic to have that caliber brought over into Mass Effect 1, because it still feels so far behind. They did tweak a few things, like the gunplay, the gun mechanic, which I never thought was good, and I still continue to this day think it's awful. Like, even on the next gen stuff, they have done, you know, slight improvements, but it's just not enough. Visually, there are moments that you're just like, wow, that is cool, it looks great, and then there are other moments, like my character, I'm just like, no, like, man, that still needs a lot of work. So the first one, it still left me in the same position that I did all those years ago, Nate. It didn't connect. I'm still left out. I feel like I'm missing something. You know what I mean? Where are you at with this one?
Well, man, I have pure nostalgia goggles on with this game, so
Sure.
I've been waiting to play this
Yes.
game for a long time. I tried a few years ago, and I just was like, okay, it's just too old.
Yeah.
But playing the remaster, they have tweaked it enough for me, being a returning fan,
Sure.
to actually want to play through it and explore each planet. Because, man, a lot of this game, okay, going into the gameplay of it is stale. I mean, you have to go and explore planets, so you're on your Mako and you're surveying, you know, different anomalies and question marks, and then
So boring.
other times you're just literally clicking on the planet and then just surveying it for minerals. Now, for me personally, again, I've actually spent the time and read through everything, man. I've gone through every dialogue. Like, this is my favorite science fiction universe, like, ever. This surpasses
Sure.
Star Wars. This surpasses everything.
Wow.
Like, it is the ultimate universe, and I am incredibly intrigued about it. But it's so stale, man. Getting to the combat, it's also really old. I'm playing as a biotic.
Yeah.
Which, okay, let's, I guess, talk about the different classes. You get to pick between one of 6 classes, which are all play relatively the same in the first game, but as you progress through Mass Effect 2 and 3, they play very differently. So if you're actually going to start this game, pick your class wisely. But you have the soldier who's focused on weapons. You have the biotics, like I chose. And that's sort of your mage class, where you're using biotic powers like throw and lift. It honestly feels like the Force, which is fantastic in my opinion, at times in this game. But then you have your engineer, who's more focused on like sabotaging and hacking electronics and that sort of thing. But then you have all the hybrids, where half soldier, half engineer, or half biotic, half soldier. Anyways, all these variations, there's a lot of choice. Then you get to start with your character. There's a bunch of customization, which I still, you know, found myself spending quite a bit of time customizing my Shepherd, man, because the customization in this game is pretty great. But man, there actually are quite a bit of issues I've encountered, man. Nothing too time consuming, but just little things where there's an enemy flashing back and forth on my screen, or I've even just had little game crashes when I try to start up my game. Everything just sets me back maybe 10-15 seconds, but still just weird that there's a little bit of a lack of polish, at least in the first game so far.
I've had people pop in and out of cover, so I'm lining them up with my sniper rifle, and all of a sudden as they go to get out of cover, they like physically just go flash Bing. And pop. I'm like, like you can't line that up, right? So that's the problem. Like, there's a disconnect there. I'm like, oh my goodness, just painful sometimes.
All right, Drew, so if I'm going to tell you about the story and everyone about the story, there's a lot to it, but it basically starts you off as Commander Shepard on this secret mission working for the Alliance, which is basically the human government of the galaxy. So while you're on this secret mission, you have a Spectre on board, and these Spectres, they're above the law. They essentially are the law bringers of the galaxy, but they can do anything they want above the law. It doesn't matter, do or die, they have to get it done. So through all these events, you end up having to go to the Citadel and have to convince the Council, which is like the galaxy's government, so to speak. You have to try and convince them that Saren betrayed you, and they don't believe you. So through a series of events, you do end up convincing them, and you have to then stop Saren because it looks like he is trying to take out the galaxy. And that's a very, very vague description of this story, man. But if the thing is, this game is all about dialogue and choice. So everyone you talk to, there is so much lore and information that they hold, and sometimes if you actually plow through it, you'll end up opening another mission. And there's just so much choice in this game. Like, this game is amazing if you can plow through that 2007 fatigue, man, because it is old. It's a remaster, not a remake. Like you said, maybe a remake would have been a better choice for this at this point.
For sure.
But that is a lot of work, you know. That entails an entire thing. We might have not have had a Mass Effect remaster in like 5 years. So I'm content being a returning fan. But Drew, all right, man. There's so much to this game, but what are you going to score it, dude?
All right, let's wrap this up, Nate. Honestly, I would have preferred a remake of the first one and a remaster of the second two, because I think 2 and 3 hold up where the first one just doesn't. It doesn't hold up whatsoever. The story is the highlight of the game without a doubt, but you have to push through the game itself in order to get there, and it's one heck of a chore. And for me, puts me at a 4.5.
Oof, that's pretty rough, man. I'm definitely higher than you. I do have the nostalgia goggles on, but there are some silly bugs in this game that I think they should have polished and kind of hemmed out. Like, that is a little ridiculous that I'm getting little game crashes. But man, the game does look pretty, and it is just a remaster, so I'm there with a 7.
Nice.
They hit the masters, but the masters, they have lights and hoses. Daddy's, he's melting. Shh. She doesn't want to see that. Don't make her look. Don't look. Stupid.
I know it hurts, Talitha. I'm sorry. But you need to deal with this.
An incredible story might not push you through this old-feeling game as a newcomer, but as a returning fan, this is a must-grab. Repetitiveness makes up for a lot of this game, but if you can pound through it, the universe created is one everybody must experience.
Prothean technology. Unbelievable.
It wasn't doing anything like that when they dug it up. Something must have activated it.
Roger, Normandy. Standing by.
No, don't touch it! Too dangerous!
Alright, fellow hunters, we finally have a new map and live event coming out very soon. We didn't get a date, but we finally got a trailer, and if you are the eagle-eyed hunter that I know you are, you will catch some of the Easter eggs that they've tossed in this trailer alone. So since the trailer is kind of broken up in little pieces, you don't really get a full look at the map. But I noticed a couple new areas that look very intriguing, and a new legendary hunter with a new weapon, a bow. Yes, I cannot wait to see a bow. It seems like every game is adding bows nowadays, but of course Hunt Showdown absolutely needed one. But okay, a new live event, a new map, all this coming out. Hunt Showdown, Crytek, they have come out recently and said that they have hit over 100,000 followers on Discord alone. This game is at its peak. People are playing it, and I'm playing it almost every night. I love this game. You need to check it out if you haven't already, and check out this trailer.
So a couple weeks back, we were talking about Overwatch 2. We didn't have a ton of information, but Blizzard has obliged. They've filled us in with a ton of new information about the game. The biggest change is we're going from the 6v6 matches to 5v5. And to attain that, we're losing one tank class. So we're actually gonna be losing that tank slot right out of the gate. So we're only gonna be allowed to have one tank per team, which is really gonna change the strategy, I think, for a lot of teams moving in, especially on the esports stage. And I know right now there's some esports tank players that are pretty worried about their jobs because, you know, they're considering, you know, they don't have a spot on this team anymore. Maybe they have to be a backup. Honestly, I don't know how big of an issue this really is going to be moving forward. They are trying a lot of different things over at Blizzard. They're testing a lot of stuff out, but you know, the 5v5 change is a big deal for the PvP. It is going to change the way we play the game. It is going to make people use the environments a lot more. I think give people, you know, more strategic areas to use and maybe be more aggressive. It'll be interesting because we are losing that one tank. We're only going to be left with one, so what they're doing is actually going to be changing the way the tank characters play. They're going to be making tanks more frontline brawlers opposed to the kind of stationary shields that they currently are in the game. And, you know, going along with that, they are testing all different kinds, not just with tanks. They're looking at passive abilities for the different classes, whether it's support or damage or tanks. It's very interesting. It's not something they've confirmed for the final release of the game, but it is something they're working on, which would be kind of cool to have passive abilities for your tank, like the bullets that they take, the damage that is being caused to them isn't allowing the other players to build up their ultimates as quickly. Like, that's a huge defensive passive ability. Or support, they were talking about having a slow heal over time for support characters when they're not in combat, which is really interesting. I mean, there's a lot of things happening here. It's just nice to see that we're finally getting some details in the game. I'm a huge Overwatch fan. I look forward to jumping into Overwatch 2, but honestly, I'm fine with the updates, so Blizzard, just keep rolling them out.
It's another month and another bunch of free games for Xbox Live Gold subscribers and Xbox Ultimate subscribers, and also PlayStation Plus subscribers for the month of June. So let's check it out with Xbox games. Starting off, The King's Birds. In this award-winning artistic title, enjoy a seamless platform adventure with physics-based movement. Escape into a world kept secret by a tyrant and discover the truth about your freedom. Next up we have Shadows Awakening. Take control of a demon summoned from the Shadow Realm to consume the souls of long dead heroes. With a gripping storyline and challenging gameplay, find out who is in charge, the demon or the souls that have been devoured. Next up we have Neo Geo Battle Coliseum. All the best fighters await you with a host of original heroes and unique characters that transcend time. Unleash the tag team versus fighter with all your favourite Neo Geo warriors, amassed under one roof. And finally we have Injustice, Gods Among Us. From the creators of Mortal Kombat, iconic characters from DC Comics such as Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman and more, clash together in epic battles with a massive scale and bold original storyline. And those are the 3 games for Xbox subscribers for the month of June. Now let's move on to the PlayStation Plus games, and let's start off with Star Wars Squadrons. Star Wars Squadrons plants you firmly in the cockpit of a New Republic or Imperial for a first-person view of the action. Squadrons features a story-driven single-player mode, but the real action is the online battles. Next up we have Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown. With its remastered visuals, it also introduces online support for the very first time in Virtua Fighter history, including ranked matches, tournaments and leagues. And finally, for the PlayStation, we have Operation Tango. This two-player online co-op game puts one player in the role of the boots of a ground agent and the other as a remote hacker. Completing each mission will require close collaboration over voice chat, as each player uses their respective physical or virtual access to help their partner complete their objectives. I have to say I'm very excited because I love the look on the games from both sides. The only problem I have now is, which game do I decide to play first?
This is the farthest I could take you on company space bucks, Robin. You sure you want this? The research is in everything.
It is to me. And Sam. I need to know what happened.
All right, Steve, let's go. It's time to dive.
Gonna miss you, Robin.
I'll find my way back.
Steve, you and I grabbed our DualSense controller on the PS5 to go underwater for Subnautica Below Zero. Dude, were you getting a chill off of this one?
I absolutely love this game. For an open world and that kind of survival kind of game, to be underwater is a totally different experience. I have to say, I did play the first one and I wasn't sure if this was a follow-up, a DLC or a sequel, but it comes across, it looks like a remastered of the first one with more textures, more stuff to do. Still lacking the tutorial though, I have to say. If it wasn't for my experience from the first one, just a little bit, but I did have an issue of playing for about 4 hours and think, I'm doing this all wrong. And I did actually start again, and I actually caught up in 2 hours what I did, but actually more satisfying the progress I actually did.
Sure.
No,
I've had a great time as well, Steve. It's been awesome to go, like you say, underwater, right? A whole other experience than the first one. I like the story too. You're set out to find out what happened to your sister. She's passed away, but it seems like it's been covered up, right? And you're out to figure out why it's been covered up. So you're heading to the surface on certain areas, and you have to keep warm when you're on these surfaces, and then you go underwater. But that's the star of the show, Steve, is going underwater, experiencing these creatures hitting certain depths, which just transform how you react in the world, whether you can actually travel that far. You can upgrade your O2 tank, right? So you have more breathing time when you go underwater. You can set up contraptions above the water, then feed it down with pipes, so you can dive 1,000 meters down when you're sitting off in some of these other explorations as you set out. But like you said, dude, no tutorial really. You're basically tossed into this thing and say, here, go. And I don't know how many times I died before I realized how to eat properly. Bring the fish back, cook the fish, and eat it. I'm like, that kind of makes sense when you think about it, but when you're first out there exploring, trying to watch how much breath you have left to survive, so then you pop to the surface and you dive back down because you want to stay out and explore some more. I've had a great time playing Below Zero, man. This is definitely a cool experience.
I have to say, visually, it was stunning. I love the way it's like when you're underwater, and as we mentioned before, it goes through like midday or sunrise, that kind of thing, and then it goes to pitch black, and that's where you have to craft a flashlight because it does get dark. But I have to say, all the corals and the fish, that's off that fluorescent glow. It visually, it was beautiful. And then you come to the surface, and then you see like the horizon, and you see all the other planets in the distance, whether it's red, purple. For me, the experience was amazing. I absolutely loved it with the haptic feedback as well for the DualSense. But yes, what you were saying about like eating and surviving, and because you have to make sure you've got filtered water and food, and you go out and you collect certain fish to actually provide the water and the food depending on the type of fish you get. Then you take it back to your pod, and then you use the amazing fabricator to craft absolutely anything, whether it's you're cooking your fish or using it to make filtered water, or even crafting other stuff as well, just to help you for other materials.
No, it's definitely cool. It was the hardest part for me, Steve, is actually seeing what I have in front of me to craft, but where do I gather those materials, right? How do I get that next piece of coral or the rock or you know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's so many things you need to go out, and the only way to find those is really just to set out and explore. And then you come across these iPad experiences too. They're all voice acted. I thought the voice acting was fantastic in this game. They give you the backstory of what's going on in the world, and I thought it was awesome. It's incredible that they have so much dialogue and what could be essentially left as, here, just read the PDA, right? They could just give you a bunch of text to read, but no, they don't do that. They bring these characters in here and give them personality and life to fill in the backstory. I thought it was fantastic. Dude, this game is great.
Yeah, definitely. And the good thing as well is you don't get trolled by other players. It's just you. All you have to worry about is running out of oxygen or the creatures in the sea that could kill you. But as we mentioned earlier, I do like the idea of, as your oxygen depletes and you're trying to get back up to the surface, you get probably about an extra 5 seconds of air just as you hit that surface, and that can make all the difference from dying and then starting all the way back at your pods, or carrying on and doing a bit more exploring. And it's quite a big map as well. I heard it was a little bit smaller than the first one, but there is so much. But the more interesting bit is the deeper you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the deeper you head into these depths, you find like sunken ships, and just the thing is, the more you go down, the other creatures come up to the surface in that case, right? So the further you are, some of these creatures are incredible, and they of course will attack you, which I found, I was like, oh man, I just want to go explore, like leave me alone. But it was definitely cool, Steve.
Yeah, and you also get the plants as well that give you that extra bit of oxygen the deeper you go. There's sort of like certain bits when you're running out of oxygen, you see these certain plants that will, if you just go onto them, hit the X, and then it gives you that little bit of oxygen just to keep you going. And they're sort of scattered around the bottom of the ocean floor as well, the deeper you go on rocks and stuff like that.
Steve, let's freeze this score in place. What are you giving Subnautica 0 below?
Well, I absolutely love this experience for an open world. It's totally out of the blue, amazing graphics. I like the audio as well. That kind of find it very relaxing with the audio and the whole scenery thing. So I'm giving this a 9.
Wow, you are definitely high, dude. It is a fantastic game. Definitely one worth checking out over on the PS5. It is great to play. I had a huge experience in the fact that there's just so much to explore, and underwater just brings a whole different world to what we normally play as gamers. So for me, I'm there with an 8.5.
Oxygen.
Subnautica Below Zero is a vast improvement from the first one. With stunning underwater visuals and audio and plenty of content, makes this a very enjoyable experience.
Thank you for hanging out with us. Don't forget, you can be a part of our show. All you have to do is go to InsideTheGame.ca or hit us up in Discord, where there you can submit your clip and end off our show. This week, we have the one and only Collins with some fancy plays going on in MLB The Show. Nice play, man. Until next week, everybody, thank you so much, and we'll see you inside the game.
Man will be on to open the frame. Up next, Wilmer Defoe flew out last time up. Ready with the first pitch. Here it comes. Grounded back up the middle. Baez fields it cleanly. On to Rizzo at first, and they get them both.